more. I like seeing that come out of that tap. Tell us, what is that beer that you just poured?
This is my Belgian Tripel, called Cadabra. And this is my wheelhouse style, as I've said many times.
Yeah, right. You are the Belgian guy. You're the guy who got me into Belgian beer, actually. So
yeah, I need to pump the brakes a little bit on there, right? It's like I think I give the impression it's like the only beer that I drink is Belgian beers. I don't know, man. I think it's probably true that I drink far more Belgian beers than anything else. But I love Belgian beers. But there are other styles I've been liking lately a lot too. But yes, you are right. This is my go-to style. I'm on the hunt for the best Belgian Tripel ever.
Oh yeah, okay. And I'm partial myself to, when it comes to Belgian beers, I like all the blondes. I'm not big on the whole raisin thing in the quads and the doubles. So I want to stay at the triple. I love saisons. I'm really partial to the golden strongs that give you a little bit more depth at the malt side of it. So but I make triples too. So what I'd like to do, if you're okay with it, I don't want you to give away trade secrets or anything. Folks, if you haven't met Mike before, you missed the last stream, go check that out. This is Mike from Brasserie Fantastique, and he makes Belgian beer very much the same way that I do, but he's a whole lot better at it. So I don't want to ask you for your recipe, but basics of triples, they aren't that complex, right? I use cane sugar and Pilsner, and that's it. I don't know about you. What do you think should be in that grain bill?
Yeah, there are no secrets. I'm not a professional brewer. I'm telling everybody my recipe. It's pretty simple grain bill, right? It's, you could just go straight Pilsner, Belgian or European Pilsner, and that could be your entire grain bill, right? I like to add a little bit of wheat flakes usually, to add a little bit of head retention. But other than that, I've been using Bohemian floor malted Pilsner lately, just because it's less modified and lends itself better to step mashes.
Yeah, right.
Right. It's Pilsner, and that's really the only thing that matters. I am doing some things to tweak my grain bill and my recipe a little bit right now. We can talk about that a little bit. But yeah, it's just it's Pilsner and sugar. Your other chemicals are traditionally candy sugar, either rock form or candy syrup. But what I've been using lately, Ryan, is for my my Belgian Goldens and my triples. Mm-hmm. I used to use table sugar. That's okay. But dextrose, just straight up.
Really?
Corn. Yeah. Can't tell the difference between that and, zero SRM candy syrup. I haven't been able to tell the difference. A lot less expensive. So those are your fermentables right there. It's Pilsner malt and sugar.
Huh. Okay. I hadn't thought about dextrin. That's impressive. I mean, because at the end of the day, you're just looking for something that will produce some alcohol without leaving anything residual. That's how you dry out a triple.
Yep.
And folks, if you're not into Belgian beer, triples should be a dry beer. There shouldn't be any finish, basically. It's not a hop heavy beer. It's not anything that should really linger on your palate, right?
No, I mean, no, it should be very dry, right? But triple, really, of all the Belgian style ales, the traditional Belgian style ales, single, double, triple, and quadruple, and saisons, whatever it is, the triple is probably going to be more hopped than any of those other styles. You mentioned earlier, Ryan, that you like the triples; they're generally drier and stuff. Compared to a golden, typically triples are going to have a little bit more character. They might have more residual sugar than a golden. The golden strongs, it's really hard to tell the difference between a golden strong and a triple usually, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much overlap in those styles. But one of those differentiating things is that a triple, it'll still be dry, but you may actually have more residual sugars in a triple than you would in a golden.
And that's what's really interesting, is because those lines are so blurred. For me, the difference always comes down to that mouthfeel, whether it's sugar or whatever produces a more lingering mouthfeel. For me, I think belongs more in the golden. And I get it. My goal anyway, as I produce goldens, is to try to get just to the edge of that orange color. It's not quite blonde anymore. You know what I mean? For me, I think it's mostly color if you're comparing the two.
Well, there is color, right? This is actually a pretty yellow triple. not as clear as I'd like it to be, or effervescent. But um, Goldens tend to be a little bit more fruity, and the triple is a little bit more spicy. And that spiciness should come from the yeast and the hops, right?
Okay. So let's get into that, because
sure.
I think we go about the hop profile a little bit differently. What do you use? What's your go-to hop combination?
Saz. I love Saz. Spiciness of Saz. And so the triple that I made last, that's actually fermenting in the room behind me right here. I just went single hop, just Saz for everything. Traditionally, Styrian Golding for bittering, and then Saz for flavor and aroma. I think that's pretty traditional, right? Tettnang can be in there somewhere. But Saz, I think, for me is the key. And then Styrian Golden second. There's not a whole lot of hop varieties you're going to see in triples, but Saz and Styrian Goldings are the most common, I think.
Those are my favorites too. I've been experimenting lately. This last one that I did on the Pico was Magnum for bittering, just to get that really a little bit of punch, but absolutely no underflow of current.
Sure. Yep.
No flavor at all. And then I actually went with the middle fruit for the finishing hop, just to do something different with it.
Yeah.
Little more fruity on the flavor profile. I think I like that, and I think I'm going to end up blending Saz, because I do miss the spice in this particular batch.
Another thing that I see a lot is Belgian triples with like spices actually added, right? A lot of times you see coriander or orange peel, or I can't think of the other things that you would commonly see. Sometimes instead of sugars, you'll see, or like the traditional dextrose or table sugar or candy sugar is really the key thing, right? You'll see honey, right? But all of those things add character. But I don't know. I don't think that there's anything wrong with actually adding spices, but I think the main spice character and that flavor and the aroma should come from the yeast and from the hops.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that brings us to, I think, the most controversial of them, because there's 17 million strains of yeast out there. What's your go-to for triple, and is it different than, say, the Golden Strong, or if you make a saison?
You know what? That's the yeast that I always use is 3787, because I understand how it ferments. But I haven't really ventured out from there, right? 3787, why yeast 3787? God, I wish I had done my homework so I could tell you like what strain that is, because I'm sure there's an answer to it that's probably pretty important to this question. But 3787 always does really well. It attenuates really well. And I understand the fermentation cycle. I can see when it's done, just because I'm familiar with it. There's a whole bunch of other yeasts out there that are just perfect, just as suitable for triples as 3787. But that's my go-to yeast. You've been making triples too. What are you using?
And I've tried them all over the place. I don't even know all the numbers. I tried 550 from White Labs. I've tried 560, 565. Lately, I've gone back to Imperial and gone with the Gnome strain. That's B45 from them, and that's most like 3787, and you don't have to deal with the stall.
Yeah, I want to know more about this yeast you're using, right? There's a bunch of new yeast companies coming out and doing stuff. We'll have to save that for another show, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Have you tried any dry yeasts for any of your Belgian ales?
I have not, but I bought a bunch.
Yeah.
Just recently, since we got locked down. Thank you, Northern Brewer. You're the only ones that I could get it through. Appreciate that. You can sponsor the show if you want. Contact me at the email address. But yeah, so I've got them on hand. Like I'm getting ready to use them. A couple of different strains. Do you have recommendations?
I have used a dry yeast. I can't remember what it is. Again, I didn't have my homework. 3787 is just my go-to, right? Yeah. But in a pinch, it's easy to use dry yeast. I don't remember anything bad from that batch when I used the dry yeast. But we'll have to maybe do some tests with that. You could do test batches. You should do it.
Exactly, and that's the nice thing, especially if you're only doing a half batch, a 2.5 gallon or 3 gallon batch. One sachet of the yeast is more than enough.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to do a starter at that point because I'm not building anything up. I have enough cells. It's just about the rehydration. And what does the starter actually do? You still make starters for all your Belgians, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want to get to the proper yeast count or cell count. I mean, that's imperative in any beer you're making, right? Man, I used to hate making starters. It's just, trying to get that done like 2 or 3 nights before, remembering to get it done, and having to spend an hour in your kitchen, making a small wort and stuff. But I've been using that proper starter, right? It's like a wort you can.
As have I.
Man, that is a lifesaver.
Right.
Thank
you, Omega.
Easier. But yeah, I mean, I'll build up a culture that is maybe shy like 15% of the cell count that you would normally pitch, just to get the yeast to stress out just a little bit and produce a little bit more esters and phenolics, the good phenolics, not the bad phenolics. That seems pretty easy to do, right? I mean, it's making a starter without proper is easy, and doing the calculations is easy. And I assume I'm getting something out of it, right, by under pitching just a little bit. But again, I'm just a schmo making beer and drinking beer. I don't do that much A/B testing.
Well, but batch after batch, you come up with that, because what I found is I don't even count anymore. I'm doing vitality starters. I just want them hopping when I put them in there. So unless I'm doing a barley wine or I'm doing a huge Belgian golden, for even the triple that my last triple came out at, I think it was 8.3. So not huge for a triple. They can get into the 9s, but I kept it pretty middle of the road, I think.
Yeah.
All I did is a vitality starter, 5 hours during the brew day. I started the starter. I started the brew day. It's ready to go. I mean, and I had activity in the fermenter within 3 hours. I mean, this is the way that it's working really well for me. And I do hit it with a lot of oxygen. For folks who don't know, I live up well above 9,000 feet. So I hit everything with oxygen pretty heavy. But your starter process is a little bit different. You still do a multi-day grow, right?
It's usually 24 hours. It's just one step.
Okay.
Usually 1 liter or 2 liters. And yeah, it's one step. I will usually take my flask when it's done, stick it in the fridge so that yeast will settle out. And then I'll decant it before I pitch it, right? Because I don't want to put 2 liters of this, crappy beer in there. So I'll decant as much as I can off, and then swirl it back up, let it come to, pitching temperature, and then pitch it.
I do the same thing. And honestly, I don't even chill it. I just stop the stir plate.
Yeah.
Let it settle for half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. You can do that with mine too.
What I've begun doing, and this is probably a whole other show, but I want to get your opinion on it, is I'm not one, even though I know you use catalysts and I use a conical that I can capture that, and I still have the catalyst as well for my backups when I have multiple beers fermenting. I don't want to reuse yeast. I've gone to this thing where I make the starter and I save the last 300 mils or whatever, and I put it into a sanitized jar and I keep it. So I'm rebuilding from packs, off of starters, not off of brews.
Yeah. Off of starters, that's the key.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Why not off the actual fermented beer?
Because everything I make's big. Everything's big. Yeah. A lot of times I don't even stay within the ABV style guide. So that stresses that yeast out. Next generations are going to be pre-stressed already. So I'm trying to keep it as close to the Gen 1 that I'm getting in the pack.
Yeah.
So that I don't, a lot of pro brewers would tell you that about batch 5 is where they get the most optimal flavor results, right? I'm trying not to get to like Gen 7 before I realize, hey, I should have saved this off from before.
Right. We talked last time about trying to keep, I've been trying to keep all the sludge and stuff from getting into my fermenter. One of the reasons is because I do actually want to start reusing my yeast. But I don't want all the cold break and all the other sludge and the hop stuff right in there. So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to dial that in my system, is to keep that stuff out and just be able to collect the yeast at the end of fermentation. I've never done that. I've never reused any yeast. And I'm very unlikely, just being the schmo brewer that just likes to brew and drink beer, I'm unlikely to build a yeast program at my house. But
Just need a little microscope. It's okay.
I guess so, yeah. But I mean, I would like to be able to reuse that yeast, right? I mean, it's not necessarily for the financial aspects of it, but you know, if I know the yeast really well and know what I'm going to get out of it, that might be actually kind of a fun thing to be able to do. So yeah, it's interesting to see that you're doing that. Maybe that'll be one of the things I start working on.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of tips. I built my whole process up from scratch. So maybe we'll talk offline. We'll give you what I've got, and maybe we'll go through the pros and cons once we both do it.
Yeah, sure. So let me ask you this: Do you have any commercial styles of Belgian triples or Goldens, really, that you go to that you like a lot?
I'm a Duvel guy. I'll drink anything.
You're what now?
Duvel.
Oh, Duvel.
Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely heard you wrong. Okay, Duvel guy, right.
I'm evil too, whatever you want to call it. That's fine. So I'll drink anything they make. I even drink their Belgian IPAs, which is, I think, a bastardization of two styles that I don't really like, but I try them. And I always come back to, I'm torn between what I know is your favorite beer and one of my top 5 in the Tripel from New Belgium and Tank 7 from Boulevard.
Yeah. Oh man, Tank 7's a thing all of its own. I wouldn't call it a triple at all, but you know, New Belgium Tripel. I mean, and actually, I love Tank 7, by the way. Right? It's just probably a saison. But in any case, it's
exactly. It's their little brother, big brother, is the way I see them.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, New Belgium Tripel is. I don't think that's a great representation or commercial example of a triple.
Why?
I don't. I just don't think it's. I think it's just kind of a big, giant, mass-produced triple, right? And now I love that beer. That's like my Bud Light, right? It's like I've always got a 12-pack of that in my fridge, and that's what I'm reaching for. I love that beer. I just don't think it's the greatest commercial example of a traditional Belgian triple. Doesn't mean I don't like it. Doesn't mean I don't love it. I just don't think it's the best commercial example. That's all. But it's good.
It is, and it's something that's available to me. So that's where I go to, and I agree with you. I think there's a couple of things in there that are not typical. But again, I'll take it every time. But so give me some of your classics. Who are the ones that you're looking at? Man, we're going to have to do this for Saisons too, because they blend the line so much.
Yeah. Wow. Saisons that's an interesting brewery to beer too, isn't it? Yeah. My favorite Belgian triples are the ones I can get in my stores. Right.
Yeah.
I love Westmalle. Westmalle is great. La Trappe is great. Right. These are all actually Belgian breweries making triples. Yeah. Triple Carmelie is awesome. And it's interesting thing about Triple Carmelie is, generally a triple has just a really, really simple recipe, right? It's, the ingredients anyway are really simple. Triple Carmelie is one of those exceptions that has a pretty complicated malt bill and some other things going on with it but it doesn't matter. It's still a really good beer. It's still a triple. But Triple Carmelie is great. You know what I had the other day that is really hard to find is West Letteren. So West Letteren is one of the most highly rated Belgian triples, of all of them. But they don't distribute, right? And to have a West Letteren, you have to go to Belgium and drive up to their brewery and get it there, right? So, but guy that I ran into went there, got some, and brought it back with him and shared one with me. And it was fantastic. It was really good. But yeah, those are my go-tos, right? And other good ones are that you can find pretty commonly in stores, at least where you and I live, Ryan. Affligem, La Fin du Monde is really good. Allagash makes probably one of the best triples I've ever had. But they don't distribute here anymore. So, damn, Allagash, come on, man.
We're in the West. It's okay.
Yeah.
I get it every time I go back to Virginia, and I basically pig out on it the whole time I'm there.
Yeah, Allagash is a really great brewery. But yeah, those are the ones I get, right? And another one that you can find in stores, at least where you and I live, is Victory Golden Monkey. Very much like New Belgium's Triple.
Yeah.
It's always available in your corner store. The Golden Monkey's pretty good too.
Yeah, they're all a little bit off, and I play with stuff every now and then, mostly with hops. I haven't really played with the grist that much, but I agree with you. Everything's a little bit different, but Allagash is definitely probably my favorite in terms of who's the closest American brewery brewing like it should be or
Yeah,
like it has been in Belgium. Nothing against Oma Gang. I love what they do, but I don't think that it's what it was 10 years ago in terms of being classically driven. I think they've
yeah,
grown out of that, and that's perfectly fine for commercial
yeah,
brewery.
yeah.
For me, I want to kind of stick to it. I know we don't have a ton of time left, but I do want to hit you with the biggest thing about Belgian beers, and the thing that I have gone round and round and round and round and round. And thank you, John Palmer, and everybody else who I've read who's come up with mash schedules. But what have you found works best for you, knowing that you brew at altitude too, but
Yeah.
6,000 feet or so? What's your steps, and how much do you think that actually contributes to the flavor you get out of your triple?
Do you mean like my mash schedule?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's hard to say. I'm not scientific enough in the mash schedule to know what it's specifically what it's doing. I can tell you that I think I get better results when I step mash on less modified malts than I do when I just do a single step mash with a highly modified malt. Mouth feels a little bit different. Honestly, I get a little bit more dryness out of there.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're extracting a little bit. The sugars are different at each one of those stages. Again, I'm not the scientist here. I don't know exactly how that works.
Well, it's the malting. If you haven't over malted it and over modified it, it leaves things more in a raw aspect. So
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I'll tell you what I think. The biggest thing that you can do to make a Belgian triple or a golden or really any Belgian beer a little bit more authentic, it's never going to be a Belgian triple if you're making it in Colorado. It's a Colorado triple. But in any case, a triple, the biggest thing you can do is don't put it in a keg, bottle condition it. It is amazing the difference between a bottled condition with a like really highly carbonated triple in a bottle versus pouring it out of a keg. The beer that I just poured out of my keg back here, half as good as it would be if I had bottle conditioned it. My friend Dave actually did some testing here. He started out his triple using my recipe and brewed that and made a pretty good beer. And then I had his just a couple months ago, and he made some tweaks. And the most notable one, there's two really. One, he fermented at a lower temperature as opposed to a higher temperature. At a higher temperature, you get more esters and more phenolics and stuff. He controlled his temperature a little bit better, kept it under 71 or 70. That made a big difference, but he also bottle conditioned his. Just went straight to bottle with a little bit of corn sugar or something. I'm not quite sure exactly what he used, but it's fantastic. And really, I think that's the key. I mean, if you're going to do anything to make a triple more authentic, it's the bottle conditioning.
And my question to you is, how long is the conditioning? How long did he let that sit? And what's your goal? If you're bottle conditioning, what's your time frame?
Man, I want to drink it. I don't have any interest in cellaring.
That's my problem. That's why I don't bottle condition.
I mean, the truth is, with the amount of alcohol and stuff in a Belgian triple, it can take some cellaring, right? You want to cellar it for a little while. So, I mean, if you're going to bottle condition it, it's going to need 2 or 3 weeks at 70 degrees to carbonate anyway. So you're not really, or if you're going to keg it, it's still going to need some time to condition in the keg, or leave it in secondary is really what you want to do before you keg it. But it takes some time, right? You want to kind of condition that beer for 2 or 3 months before you start drinking it. So you might as well just condition it in the bottle as opposed to the keg. You're going to need that time anyway.
I never get there. Ever.
I know, it's hard, man. It's hard. I know. Any beer I have, it doesn't matter how long it's supposed to be sitting. If it's in my keezer and it's carbonated, I'm going to be pouring it.
See, it's gotten to the point now where I try to brew the triple the week after I brew something else so that I can drink that something else while it's aging.
Yeah. That's right. But you know, the one cool thing about it is if you do package a beer early that you can actually sample and stuff, you can see how it changes over time.
Yeah.
If you don't drink it all up like I do, like really quick. But if you have like some self-control and can drink it in, over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 months, you can see how the beer changes in time. It's kind of a fun experiment.
I'm into it. In fact, I'm gonna have to start bottling or canning more.
Yeah.
I'm aiming towards canning just in general.
Hmm.
That's going to be a whole other conversation we're going to have. But that process is going to hopefully help some of that cellaring to just let things age, leave them be what they are.
Yeah.
Man. Last thing that I just want to get from you, if you were going to try to explain what you get out of a triple versus, say, a saison or something lighter but still Belgian, where do you draw that line? What do you tell people this should be?
As far as the style is concerned, or like what I want to drink?
Well, both actually, because that's part of selling it, right? Like my wife was not into Belgian beers. Now I can't make saison fast enough for her.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting, right? It's like if for those people that don't like beer, sometimes like a Belgian triple is like the best way to introduce them because it's it's not that American lager, right? It's
right.
Totally, completely different. Man, when I'm looking for something drinkable in every beer that I drink, right? It's probably why I don't drink a whole lot of like really sour or really barrel-aged beers. I just want something drinkable, right? And triple it has a lot of character, whether it's from the aroma from the phenolics and the esters, or that it's pretty, it's effervescent, it's a very approachable beer. I'm just looking for something that's drinkable and dry. Triple to me is something I can drink on a hot summer day or a cold winter night.
Right. Yeah, it's a nice crossover. I like to. It's probably my favorite Belgian beer to pair with food, just because I think it goes well.
Yeah, yeah. Any particular favorites? Pairing favorites?
Oh man, yeah. I will tell you this: there is nothing better to me than either smoked or grilled chicken with that triple to break up that kind of acrid char you get on the food. I love that. That's my favorite thing, with a little summer salad with a little bit of spice in there, some jalapeno. That's yeah, I'm sold. Hell, I might have to do that tonight. Okay. Well, that's it for us, folks. A lot about triple, because you have a tendency to see that half an hour in, we can get carried away with this one in particular. So, Mike, thanks for all the time. And I'm looking forward to the next time we get to drink that. All right, folks, have a good one. We'll talk to you next time.